thank you for being here. This is probably one of the parts of the jobs that are probably the most, important aspects as we talk about trying to preserve the history and stories of the people who are buried here and their descendants that come to tell us these stories. So let's just start out with a basic introduction. Tell us your name, tell us your connection to Oakwood and what brings you by today.
Okay, my name is Dennis Jacob Berry. I'm the fifth generation of the Fontaines. Jacob Fontaine is my grandfather, Reverend Jacob Fontaine. And he's the founder, one of the four founders of Black churches in Austin, Texas, and surrounding areas. And it was the reason, what connects me to Oakwood is that I came back to Austin from Phoenix, Arizona. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. And I came back to Austin on a journey to promote my book. Now that it's finally finished, I'm like, what? And I'm like, go back home, right? You got family there, friends, old friends and stuff like that. They hear that you're back and they're like, oh, you might wanna, because I believe in networking, right? And so I was like, okay, I have a good Facebook following, I had up and down from 5,000. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can do a little promoting through there. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna come back home. So me and my business partner, we come back to Austin. And it was around Juneteenth. We were driving past the cemeteries. And I was like, oh snap, my grandfather's in one of these cemeteries. Matter of fact, more than one, But I wasn't sure which one, right? Being in the informational era, Google. So I just started Googling and everything, Google Maps and everything. It's like, oh, he said Oakwood. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to Oakwood. It's Juneteenth. I'm like, wow, okay, let's go and check them out and everything. We come to Oakwood, and I'm like, nobody's around. So I'm like, I don't think are we gonna be able to find them? We have to walk through it and everything. I'm like, oh, never did this before. And so me and my friend Angela, we was like, okay, we'll just pull over. So we pulled over and everything. And as soon as we pulled by the chapel, you popped up. He was like, hey, what's up? You was like, can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I'm looking for my grandfather. He's like, who? And I'm like, Jacob Fontaine, So the look and the energy that radiated from you when I said his name, and that you was like, we've been looking, he's like, it was amazing that you knew my grandfather, you knew of his great achievements. And that made me proud. I have a colorful background. And to know that you come from something great, and though you go through your journeys in life and wonder how did you make it through those troublesome times, and it always reminds me, because you're from something great. Everyone is, but you have to tap into it. And when all the chips were down, that's what I tapped into. But when you gave me that energy, I was like, wow. I'm like, yo, your grandfather's somebody great, you know what I mean? I'm like, people are still tapping into that energy, and it's an inspiration. And I'm an artist. I always called myself an artist first, because I'm like, I believe the universe, the creator is the artist of all artists, right? And we're the rays. So if we're the rays, we just shine with the effects of, and so we're all artists. We're all creators in our own likeness or whatever. So that was real cool. And then so as we started talking, and the more that you started enlightening me on, that I didn't know that Austin had developed into recognition of some sort, you know, which was better than in the past. And at the same time, I feel like remorse, because I feel like how great would this nation would have been if just the equal keeping of records, equal, just okay, whatever's going on, whatever, we're family and we fight and all that stuff. We'll figure it out sooner or later. You gotta break some eggs and make a cake, whatever. But at least keep the records right. So we'll really be able to learn from our mistakes. How do you know this cake don't taste right? I don't know the ingredients right. So I don't know what I could extract out and put back in. That's gonna better it for the next time I wanna bake that cake. How can you win how can you learn if you don't keep proper records? You can't even remember what your grade was last week when you took that test. So you don't know if you made any improvements?
For me, it's like the inspiration, the inspiration that Jacob Fontaine has had. I mean, that To Believe was the first exhibit that the Oakwood Cemetery Chapel put on. And imagine the inspiration that, this city, this country, the world could take from these stories that have always been there, but have been hidden, forgotten about, secret. And with your book, ties directly into kind of the start, right, of your journey. So can you tell us, when and where you were born and what were those conditions?
Wow. All right. First, I would, the starting of my journey, I would say I would start off with like telling the story about my mother. She's my grandfather's daughter. So can you imagine growing up like that? Like she didn't want for things. Poverty wasn't in her because she was kind of like privileged in that, on the east side of Austin, in that area type of thing. So at the age of 16, she gets pregnant. She has my brother, Patrick Leon Green. She has him. Because she felt like she disgraced the family. You know what I mean? This is like 70, 1970, 1969. So she felt like she disgraced her family. So she leaves. I made a decision so I need to be woman enough to deal with it on my own. I knew better. So she's like, okay. She finds my father, Dennis Johnson. They get married. She has my brother TJ, has another child. She's married. She gets pregnant again with me. So it's Patrick, he's 4 years old at the time. TJ, he's 2. And then she's pregnant with me. 1974, the same year that I'm born, October 1st. Within that year, my brother died. He swallowed his tongue, had a seizure. My mom was pregnant with me, a few months old, conceived. And she was in the kitchen cooking. My brother and him were outside playing. My brother seen him not moving around, and so he ran and told my mom. My mom runs out there. My mom's a nurse at the time. She's practicing or in school to be a nurse at the time. So she couldn't help him. She tried to extract his tongue, pulling all that stuff. He passed. October 1st, I'm born. Within 8 months, the doctors tell my mom that her child has cancer. Born with cancer. Just lost a child. Yeah, like I was saying about my mom, so she took the story, right? But now she's a spiritual woman, God-fearing, right? She's like, okay, I'm gonna take it to God. That's how she did. So, mom takes it to God. She's got a newborn baby diagnosed with cancer. The doctors tell her they gotta shoot me up with steroids. You know, they're gonna shoot me up because my body would develop and be strong enough to take radiation, because they never did it before. Never tried it on us. But they're gonna try it on me because they like, a baby has a stronger will to live. They're right. Thank God. Yeah. But that's what I had to go through, right? And afterwards, they called me the miracle baby and all that stuff. I was born in Brackenridge Hospital, by the way. It's not here anymore. They kind of like turned it into something else and moved some over here. But yeah, I remember like for the next 10 to 12 years, I had to go through treatments and stuff. No, not treatments, but just checkups. Just to see, making sure that it hasn't came back or nothing like that. But I'm still gonna go from after me, the cancer's gone, 8 months old. I mean, at 8 months old, I had a neuroblastoma. They cut me from, as a baby, I was only like maybe so big. So the cut was maybe this big, right? But now that I'm a grown man, that cut comes from here to my spine. Just that little bitty cut on a little bitty baby, it just stretched, right? So that neuroblastoma made it to where I have like a little malformation right here or whatever. But still I'm here, right? So at the age of 9, it tried to come back. They thought it was trying to come back. I had a lymph node, skin tissue here on my neck. Then I had another one in my chest. They treated me, cut it out, tested it, came back negative or whatever. And they were like, you're still good. Keep on going. So I was like, okay. So that was a blessing. But I'm gonna go back through, retract the cancer part, because I'm telling you the timeline of me, right? So I'm gonna go to 3 years old after. At 3 years old, my dad gets murdered, stabbed in the back. LA, East LA, somewhere in LA, in a nightclub or something. And of course, I was in Austin with my mom, little baby. So now that story is a part of my life. Growing up was just me and my mom and my brother, you know? And my mom is a real prideful woman. She always was there for the family, but she would never ask the family for anything. Never. But she was in the medical field. She loved helping people. That's what she does. So the family knows this. So somebody gets sick, somebody needs some counseling, spiritual counseling. The elderly in our family, they call in on my mom. She's there, like a soldier. You know what I mean? but she won't ask the family for nothing. My dad dies, we have to move to California, paperwork or something. So we moved to California, East LA. Amazing. Man, it's a blessing for me to be here right now. Man,
that was like East LA. What around what time period?
This is 79.
So yeah.
You know, about 79. This is about a good spot.
Getting into
so
a pretty tough time.
Imagine.
Yeah,
this is
in LA.
It's moving. Like it's everything of Hollywood, right? Everything that Hollywood cut out, it's all of that, like a smorgasbord or something, So my life, I've seen everything at an early age. I've seen death, close to death, just everything right there. I'm like, because my mom detached herself from the family, she wouldn't ask the family for nothing, we struggled together. But it wasn't, my mom made family. She showed me that God is real, the universe is real, and it works in unity. And you get what you ask for. So don't complain, just do something about it, type of thing. And that's what my mom taught me, so we went through those struggles and everything, and we stayed in LA. I've seen some of it all. I had an uncle that was a pimp, right? And my aunt was his first whore. He got her pregnant and he retired her, married her, but he kept on doing what he was doing. So I'm seeing all of this stuff as a little kid.
How old were you?
I'm like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's when I came back to Austin. But imagine, like I was his little protege. Like he was my babysitter on sometimes, So whatever he do, I get to see it. It was like, I got money. Women thought I was cute. Oh, you're so cute. Play with your cheeks and stuff, all that stuff. And I got a lot of money and stuff from just hanging out. I thought it was just cool or whatever. But I knew I wasn't supposed to be seeing this. You know what I mean? I'm saying that stuff to let you know that your mind, when a child sees things like that, their mind starts they're growing faster. When they're seeing grown-up decisions and understanding grown-up things and stuff like that, it can be better, but they're losing their childhood. So I kind of lost my childhood, but I grew up fast. I was more of like a protector as a little kid. You know what I mean? I'm the youngest, but I was sticking up for my big brother. I'm 4 years younger than him. You know what I mean? But I felt like I needed to, because I felt like I was stronger than him. And he was like twice my size, but I felt like I was stronger than him. I thought more. You know what I'm saying? I just felt like it was just different. So, all through my life, I've had people come to me and talk to me and like grown-ups. My friends' parents would come to me and ask me questions about their kid because the way I conducted myself. I played, but I played with respect. And the kids would fall in line. They would act up at home or whatever, but it was structured when they meet me, when we hang out or whatever. And the parents would be like, how did you do that? I'm like, I just make it make sense. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's all, just make it make sense. Act like you care. Don't yell at them. Be humble, talk to them. understand that they're human. They got thoughts and feelings. Because I was a little kid. As a kid, I understood that because I was talked to as like a little adult, as a little bitty kid. So now I'm actually maybe 5 years older than the kids that I'm actually talking to mentally. So I talk to them like an adult, but I break it down because I'm actually a kid. So it's like a mediator.
So you moved back to Austin. You said you were about 9 years old. Mm-hmm. So what was it like coming back to Austin, where obviously you have these family roots and ties? What was that experience?
Oh, that was an experience itself also, because we moved on 12th Street and 12th and I don't know how, like Wells, that Wells store. It was like Wells. It's a Wells, like little gas station, liquor store or whatever. And we lived right up the hill. And my grandfather, he lived on Pennsylvania, forever, So I could walk from my house to my grandfather's, and I would do that, right? And but that walk, I'm walking past people gambling, just hustling, whatever, But I get to my grandfather's house and he's sitting up there. It didn't matter how early it was. It could be like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and I'd see him in a suit and tie. He's sitting at a table about big as this with mail stacked up about this high. I'm like, wow. Like, Granddad. How you doing, Jacob? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, all that mail for you? He's like, yep, for the day. I'm like, wow. I'm like, you got to respond to all of that? And he laughed. He's like, yeah, I got to respond to this if it's necessary.
So let's. What did your grandfather do? Who was he in the community?
He did multiple things. All right. He was a minister, pastor of multiple churches. Founder of many organizations. I can't name them all. I'm talking like a lot. Right? He had his own printing companies, magazines, insurance company, just multiple businesses. He was just a businessman plus politician. He was an organizer. He was a community help leader. You know what I mean? He would just do whatever it took, just like his fathers before him. He was no different. It's like a carbon copy. He knew what he was supposed to be doing. He was focused. He taught me what a man's supposed to be. He was the person that I felt like was the most powerful entity on earth because of his demeanor. He taught me, he showed me how a man stands. Your yeses be your yeses and your noes be your noes. I was a little kid and he talked to me like I was a grown man. He called me Jacob. He wouldn't call me by Dennis. He's like, Jacob, how do you do it? You know what I mean? It's like he would tell me so many stories and so many things that I thought were just stories. Like he was like imagining. He tells me about my grandfather that he was actually free before the Emancipation because of him being a pastor. And they don't even say that, literally. But that's what happened. He was able to move freely as a clergyman. He was given his papers to do exactly what he did, which is to organize religious churches so that we have refuge somewhere. Can you imagine?
Tell me, what was it like just getting that source of wisdom and having that time, like with your grandfather, and maybe other members of your family, like, did that help to maybe bridge some of those gaps?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I like I was telling you that when I was in California, I was learning stuff that I was it was like, wow. I actually was pulled over in California at the age of like 5 on a bike, me and my brother, because he had me on the handlebars. We're on the sidewalk just riding. And the police pulled us over and gave us a ticket. It was like, come on, man, for real? Like, yeah. So I was already introduced to a lot of things that I wasn't supposed to be introduced to. So the best thing was me being reunited with my grandfather, because he showed me what I was really made of. And from that point, I already understood, like, from that point, people would tell me, like, drop little seeds of who I was. Like, I couldn't go anywhere in the city, you know. It's like, hey, like, oh, yeah, I know your granddad. Yeah.
Keeps you out of trouble.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So, man, I got, what is this they talking about, though? You know? So, from that point on, I've been like, I kind of got lost.
So, what was the rest of like your adolescence like? You know, from that point when you come back to Austin, and you know what happens from there. How long did you stay in Austin? You know, did you move anywhere else?
Stayed on the east side for just a short period of time, maybe about 6 months. My mom had signed up for Section 8. So they was trying out Section 8, this is in the 80s. And they were trying out moving people into the suburbs, getting properties that are in the suburbs and switching, you know, intermingling, you know, cultures and stuff. So we were the first blacks in this neighborhood, right? In Lamplight Village. It's right on Palmer Lane. It was right on the outskirts of Austin, right? So we were the first black family there. And that was the first time I was called a nigger. And I was like, what? I didn't even know what to expect. I didn't know how to respond to nothing. But I remember my uncles, one of my uncles, I think it was my Uncle Lambert. He told me, if he wouldn't have told me that I was supposed to be insulted or feel some kind of way, but he explained it to me. And then I was like, oh, okay. He said, don't let nobody call you that. Period. He's like, just let them know that you don't like that. You know what I mean? But he didn't say it at that time. He was kind of like a little belligerent when what he said. But he said, don't worry about it. Just handle your business and they'll understand. Once you let them know that that's a no-no, they'll stop. And it happened. As a kid, I'm 9 years old. And it was a group of kids across the street. I was in my yard playing by myself. And it was across the street, it was about like 4 or 5 white guys. White kids, my same age, you know, a couple of months apart or whatever. And they were playing this game. They were saying, first they said, what's your name? I said, Dennis. So they was like, oh, Dennis. So now they got my name. They're like, whoever likes Dennis, keep their shoes tied. So they untie their shoes. So I'm like, that's childish. He's like, so now they're walking around with their shoes untied. And they're like, whoever like Dennis, keep their shoes untied. So they tie their shoe back up. They were just doing stuff like that. Then they started throwing rocks. And then they started calling me nigger. And I was like, wow. For real, y'all? I told y'all my name. I wasn't being rude or nothing. I was just, I was willing to be friends.
Kids your age.
These are kids my age, and they're chunking rocks at me. They're trying to throw rocks at me. I'm like,
and it makes you think. How does a kid even
get
know that word? Where does that come from?
But I psychologically already broke all that down as a kid, because mind you, I think like an adult at this time. So now I didn't already picked out. I'm gonna beat each one of them up. I'm like, each one of y'all are gonna be hanging around each other all the time. I'm gonna beat each one of y'all up, and I'm gonna explain it to you. And afterwards, they all wound up being my best friends to this day. We're all Facebook friends, all of that stuff.
You probably saved them from going down a completely different path, because they were obviously getting a lot of their information from
wrong sources. And it wasn't even their parents. Their parents, they would like treat me better than they would treat their own kids. Because I helped them kind of like counsel their kids and kind of like made them better. Because I was just a thinker, you know? So it was just weird. But it was great because I understood it from that point, from 9 until I was 16, I lived there. I went from Palmer Lane Elementary to Westview Middle School, from Westview Middle School to Pflugerville Middle School, from Pflugerville Middle School to Pflugerville High School. Then I moved to Arizona. That was a great turning point, because that was the first time I ever stayed somewhere and for a long period of time. To have friends and to go from grade to grade to grade to grade, because before then, I was in and out of the hospital. I was in and out of schools. I was going from city to state or town or whatever, you know? So I didn't really have any stable friendships or relationships or anything like that until that point. And those were the like crucial points of my life to develop me to understanding myself and stuff like that. But as I got older, moved to Phoenix, Arizona. 1990. I'm 16 years old. Moved to Phoenix, South Side, Phoenix, Arizona. My aunt, my great aunt, she couldn't take care of herself really. And so my mom being a nurse, we dropped everything in Texas, sold everything, and moved to Arizona. My brother had just graduated high school, and he was going off to, he went off to college. So my mom was like, where you want to go next, right? I asked my mom a question. I said, Mom, why we always move a lot? She said, because I want you to be well-rounded. I don't want you to think that your life is only consists of this. You know what I mean? It's like God is everywhere, and He made a lot of different type of people and all this stuff. And she's like, you need this. I don't want you to be closed-minded. So she's like, now that your brother's gone, he's off to college, where you want to go next? So I was like, I don't know. I was like either Hawaii or California or New York. And she's like, well, I'm gonna pray about it. She's like, I'm gonna take your request and I'm gonna bring it to God, and we're gonna see what He say. The next morning, she gets a phone call, and it's my family talking about my great aunt, you know what I'm saying, needs somebody to help her, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So my mom's like, they go to answer it. We're going to Arizona. I'm like, Arizona? What's in Arizona? Sand? Desert? What? Come on, man. I'm like, I can't ride my skateboard in no sand. Come on, man, that's stupid, right? So she's like, nah. She's like, it's city, it's still, you know. I'm like, all right. So we go to Phoenix, Arizona, and it's everything. It's mountains, it's so crazy, right? So I fall in love with the mountains and stuff, right? I can't wait to climb one of them. So we get there, unpacking everything. We stay there for a little bit. I go to South Mountain High School. South Mountain High School, I end up being the president of the student union, Black Student Union. I don't know how that happened. It was unanimous. Everybody just voted for me. It was like, yeah, you should be here. I'm like, why? They're like, you're a leader, man. Ooh. I'm like, get out of here. So, and this was the same year that Rosa Parks came, and she had, it was Martin Luther King brunching, right? And I wish I could get the picture of this, but it was Martin Luther King brunching, and it was like surrounding high schools or whatever. They would get the student unions, the black student unions. They was invited to this brunching, right? And it was like news and everything and all that. And I wound up getting a picture on the front page of the newspaper with Rosa Parks kissing me on the cheek.
Wow.
And my secretary kissed me on the other cheek. Front page. Rosa Parks, man. Can you believe that? And I didn't even know it. I thought they would just take pictures or whatever. Yeah. Because Rosa Parks, after she was coming down from her, she did a speech or whatever, and I had did a speech. I don't even remember the speech. But she said something like she liked it or whatever, and she's like, "You so cute," that whatever. She's like, "Let me take a picture with you," and the cameras came up, you know. So it just happened real quick. It was like, I don't know if it was the very next morning, but it was in the news, and everybody was coming to me with newspapers like, "Yo, you're in the newspaper." I'm like, "Get out of here!" What? Now I don't have it, you know. But that was one of those moments. After that, went to Central High School, basketball. Transferred from South Mountain High School to Central High School. Then I was just like everywhere, you know, and I really wasn't taking school serious. I started getting in trouble with the law. Not on purpose, you know what I mean? It's like, it was weird.
In my dreams, dollar rule everything around me. In my, let's see,